Garrosh, you have, ooh, this is going to be hard. You know, not enough threat, not enough opportunities, even for those extremely powerful. Even Genji, you know, those heroes have trade-offs. The only one that I think may be equal in rivaling is the Medivh. And even then, I think he has that kind of, you know, what if this doesn't happen within this game? Do we still end up having that still well-painted picture in our favor?
There's another thing to consider is we're going to see the Medivh ban, see if, you know, something gets let through here. But Garrosh, where does Garrosh kind of lie? Is Gale Force willing to first pick that? Or do they feel that Hanzo, maybe they get Garrosh and Hanzo instead of picking this first pick Phoenix? I think that's something that has to be considered. Last game, they snap-blocked the Phoenix. This time, they're switching up. They're going to go Garrosh, and they'll take whatever that Hanzo or Phoenix is going to be left over.
It's a bold statement here from Gale Force Esports, giving over that Phoenix to Simplicity. What else are we going to see paired with it here for them, though? Normally, we've gotten that Garrosh Stukov rotation in the last game from Simplicity. Before that, we saw them prioritize the ETC and Dahaka. This is a map where Dahaka, you know, if they have that same kind of priority, would expect them to pick it up.
Yeah, the Blaze Dahaka kind of pairing, it's kind of like, do you want the global or do you kind of want that bunker backup safety? Both of them, I think, do a great job, but Dahaka generally does tend to win out here in North America on this battleground, and it's been a favorite, obviously, of Prismat so far. But on the same side, Gale Force has made good use of it in recent past as well. So where does the side lane come in? Are you willing to pick up Dahaka or Blaze if you're Gale Force in your next pick and then ban out the other? I mean, there's so much to consider here. And for Gale Force, it's just weird. It's like, all right, well, I don't really know what we want because right now we're down 0-2. We got to try something maybe slightly different.
Phoenix and Stukov will be the choice here for Simplicity. It's going to be really cool to look at where Stukov, now that the Malfurion nerfs have come in, where he raises in priority, because he was not agreed upon as a universal support in North America on where he ended up falling. But now, according to the logic that we saw out of supports of North America before, and Malfurion dropping in priority, Stukov should be like the go-to, not far and above, not even close level of support. But he hasn't even seen play in every single draft that we've seen here today. So it's kind of when and where do you end up getting that? Right now, the only pattern we see is when Garrosh is on the table, then the Stukov suddenly rises in priority, you know, as a deny, and the synergy is way, way too good together.
There's part of me right now that if I'm seeing Simplicity, now Nubarak has not been a popular hero for King Caffeine. It's been around that ETC Tyrael, Garrosh, a couple games of Stitches, a couple games of Johanna. If I could get an Nubarak and an Abathur in this composition on the side of Simplicity, you get a Hosty Abathur, which you know is tried and true and very good. You get an Nubarak to deal with some of the spell damage, but you have that follow-up CC. You can maybe clone that down the road. It's a little bit wild, but knowing that Zuna's back there on the Phoenix, maybe kind of control that front line and then really get control, and it also gives you that escape option.
That's a really good point you bring up. Honestly, I feel like I wouldn't hate if they ended up going into that direction with the draft themselves. Simplicity committed to the Lucio ban. I think we're going to be seeing a bit more of that now that, again, the adjustments with Malfurion, if you don't agree that he is as good, then Lucio is most likely the next to kind of take his role. Since you got Stukov on your side, take away the other.
Well, we mentioned the Dahaka Blaze kind of consideration. Gale Force ended up taking the Dahaka in what we would normally see as an early, you know, period to pick that up. But given the way that this map plays out and given the priority on that, looks like they're hovering the Genji. The Genji hasn't necessarily stood out to me really as a Simplicity hero.
Yeah, no, I agree.
They're 0-3 on it when Zuna plays it. They just don't play it a lot, and Hosty hasn't played it at all. Phoenix, we know, is most likely Zuna.
And I'd much rather take away a Hanzo, honestly, at this point in time. The Genji plus Phoenix, their play styles, it's not that they can't overlap, but I feel like they do kind of, Phoenix can't keep up with the pacing that Genji wants necessarily in every type of skirmish.
Now I just see an auto attack redemption build from Hanzo. Reduce armor at level 7, and all of a sudden Garrosh is like, this is not fun.
And normally you'd be like, well, the biggest trade-off is you can't keep him alive, but guess who's left up for the top lane who can trade pretty well into Dahaka? That's a Blaze, who has that last resource available with the bunker if necessary to kind of pull away from it. Honestly, I would love a Hanzo Blaze rotation here from Simplicity. I feel like that would put them in a kind of like, yeah, we're ready to go. And then you keep your front line.
Tyrael at the end.
That's what you'd expect, but only if you need it. Other than that, you can be reactionary with it.
A lot to consider here for Simplicity, but it seems...
Maybe Junkrat, if not, to try and capitalize on maybe Garrosh lack of positioning, but I feel like they don't need the wave clear.
Phoenix is in such a weird spot because we look at a hero like Maiev. Maiev comes into the Nexus here into HGC, and you're like, look, this hero is complex, it requires a special player, and it's not worth committing multiple people to learn this. Phoenix a little bit easier to learn. He's a backline hero, he's got auto attack, we know what we can get. So with Phoenix, you say, all right, we saw Zuna on it before, it's likely to be Zuna again because it's so early in terms of Phoenix's maturity here in HGC. So maybe you could flex, but instead we do get that Hanzo and we get the Tyrael. So Hosty's got Hanzo, Zuna, and Phoenix. These are a lot of recipes to success.
Yeah, and again, where I expected the Blaze to come in replacing that Tyrael, right? And we expect that Tyrael to be the last pick. They still can move in the Blaze if they want. And if for whatever reason this last pick kind of looks like, it doesn't work too good, flex over to like the Malthael, still left up within this draft, an opportunity to counter the Garrosh, or even a Sonya when it worked too poorly here with the draft that they have.
Kill Force, the Lucio Denial, which means that we've got to have another support here. Malfurion didn't work out.
It's definitely a Malthael then, actually, now that I think about it with the Lucio ban too. But is that a Tormented Soul or a Last Rites? Because every Garrosh trade-off we've seen has been with the Last Rites. Ooh, that's interesting.
Now that we've got Rhaegar, Tormented Souls, I think, looks a little bit better.
Not into Akka Face's Tidal Waves build.
Ooh.
You don't know me?
Got the Junkrat picked up there. So this is going to be Michael Udall switching back over to the Junkrat. Biggie taking over control of Jaina. That is a hero that they definitely teeter back and forth on that Jaina between Biggie and Michael Udall. Now Simplicity, what's your last pick?
I personally am on the Blaze hype train. That in mind, again, there are more than enough arguments for Malthael here. This is one of those, again, other than the Wild Sonya, which I don't see a major argument for to commit to the Sonya in this type of composition. I don't really see any other option. It really does. It's one of the few drafts that it feels like it's one of these three. Which will it be?
Blaze Tyrael. Pretty strong when it comes to keeping people alive.
It's real
if you
good.
can control the front line and allow a Phoenix and a Hanzo to do work, again, Redemption build into that sharpened arrowheads against Garrosh, that armor reduction seems really strong to complement there alongside the Phoenix.
Surprise, it's a Blaze pick.
Dread, I'm looking at this draft on the side of Simplicity. I feel like they nailed it. Like, absolutely nailed it. Not only to a, hey, look, here's a generic draft in this week's HGC. This is it. But the way that they've been playing so far and the way that I would like Simplicity to play and what we've seen from the first two games, this even further drives the point home.
No, I agree. For me, you know, if I'm Simplicity right now, I'm looking at what I got in this draft, the momentum I've got in game number 1s and 2, and I'm just like, all right, boys, we locked in the Blaze. GG, no re. Just don't feed. Time to wrap this series up. We've got this in the bag. Silver linings on the other side, you know, for recovery, global advantage sitting on the side of Gale Force Esports. They do have the Jaina, which they, you know, Jaina Garrosh threat potential in the early game, pretty high. It just feel like between the Dahaka, Jaina, and the Junkrat, everybody has their own goals. None of them are necessarily the exact same, and I feel like that lack of synergy or every overcommitment to one area of a draft with how many well-rounded safe picks exist on the side of Simplicity, I agree. It feels like this is Simplicity's series to take. And if they do, keep in mind, that puts them at such a grand position to ensure that they do not go into that crucible and join us here post mid-season ball, even compete up through that ladder for the playoffs.
Dread, sometimes we talk about certain teams, depending on the year, depending on whether it's after a clash, after the mid-season brawl, the meta changes, and we say, all right, you know, this team, they just haven't adapted to the meta very well. Is it possible that Phoenix has single-handedly made Gale Force's meta? Because, I mean, this is their draft, right? The Garrosh, Junkrat, Jaina, you know, you put the Rhaegar back there. I mean, could Phoenix have single-handedly just disrupted the Gale Force meta that's had them so much success over the last few weeks?
I will say I think it's very possible. Like I tried to say earlier, right? One hero being implemented like this, even though there are no other changes compared to the patch we saw last week, it affects all 14. It is not just, wow, we have, you know, one hero in. That changes all of the hero priorities from beginning to end. That in mind, more often than not, those objectively powerful heroes, unless they directly get nerfed, they don't adjust too much unless they have heavy synergies or counter synergies at the other side, which is oftentimes when I was talking about the Stukov trade-off. Where do you see that kind of being implemented? A lot of that is due to his synergies and those counter synergies. So I don't know. I don't feel like it should have been, but it is very, very possible that that one change is enough to set them back. I will say that though this is a Gale Force draft, like you were talking about, with that kind of Junkrat, with the Jaina, those are things that they have shown a lot. the priority of those heroes is in a different spot. We see the Jaina priority coming back over the Junkrat that we saw 2 weeks ago, whereas last week we saw them go again with that Junkrat Genji was every single game they could get their hands on it. It's still showing up, it's just not the exact same. It feels like it's a hybrid of the two, and it's just not finding a home the way they expected. Cap, though, flipped over by Fury on that Garrosh. Jaina damage gonna go down, but not able to hit the slow.
Just out of range there, Hosty getting the poke onto Akaface on the backside, forcing a response, but that is gonna be Gale Force and team taking advantage of that global. This is something that North America has been known for, to take advantage of that global. There's gonna be Hosty, look, that's a concussion mine, I'm out. He's gonna go ahead and hop on over a wall, but using that global for that rotation down to steal these camps, get themselves an early tower.
I love Fury there with that Stukov, that one sapper. K1's like constantly going like, can I go up and get this clear? And then Fury's just, he's by himself in a 1-versus. He's like, yeah, go ahead, try and get this clear, man. And though it really, again, it doesn't gain anything, you can just see Fury whenever he gets on to the Garrosh, his confidence levels, his map awareness, his game sense, it is very much there. And he's taken anything he can get. And honestly, at this point, Gale Force need it. You know, a force like him on the front line, so fierce. Otherwise, again, this could very much be Simplicity taking this series in a 3-0 fashion, which still feels such a foreign term to me.
It's going to be, oh, here comes Zuna. Zuna's looking for the big play. There's going to be the laser going down. Remember, he is getting that stack value on that, making sure that in the current iteration, it can stack up all the way to 75, but you get the extra spin, you get the extra auto attack damage as you get this stacked up. So every little bit counts from the early part of the game to the end of the game. It is such a strong, strong talent here for Phoenix.
20 seconds out. Technically, you know, global advantage over to Gale Force may be something they rely on for this triple altar phase to give the upper hand, but by no means should, you know, Simplicity not be prepared for this. This is a very predictable early rotation. Dahaka will start the top left, meaning a very slow channel here for Simplicity into the top right. They either need to overcommit here or they're accepting that they're not going to be able to take the one-to-one trade.
Again, Akaface continuing to diversify his build. K1 Pro, he's going to get his lurking arm down, disrupt the channel. Dahaka forced to rotate up to the top, see if he can get a brush stock in, maybe on the backside of this, see if Gale Force can take another early team fight. Still 0 kills to 0, but the threat that they have accomplished so far on the side of Gale Force has kept them in control. See if they can make it happen again.
Priz is here. Dahaka still yet to get the brush stock in. He wants to try and rid that wave, but there's a lot of pressure on Jaina down below. Way to Pushel, not going to land there for K1 Pro.
There's that aggressive warp Dreadnought. Zuna's like, I'm going in. I'm going in.
Dahaka is looking to make his way down here, not even using the brush stock. A lot of damage there, Indomitable Force. Now look at the pressure onto Big Impact. Hosty coming out with that natural agility, ends up getting the damage, but flip the knockup onto Zuna. It does come at a cost, though, as they do end up getting the trade 2 for 1 in favor of Simplicity. Nice interrupt with that Junkrat nade, but now it's delaying the inevitable. Simplicity should get double altars and an advantage.
Michael Udall used his concussion mine for the interrupt, and now he has no way of escaping. He dodged the initial stun from Prismat, but King Caffeine's like, look, I got mobility too. Comes right in. That is a little bit of a misplay there by Gale Force. The fact that they willingly conceded so much of that, they got a little bit of experience, but it comes at a cost of a couple of deaths and, you know, now core health as well.
The fact that Simplicity, without a global advantage, won the skirmish, won the altar trades here. I mean, by the map in the game that we're looking at right now is near even-ish, right? But when you go to what typically you would expect the compositional advantages to be gained here and there, this is a very grim beginning half of this game for Gale Force Esports, especially with that Garrosh Jaina, the threat and kill potential. I mean, we never really talk about Junkrat's kill potential early on, but he's nothing to laugh at with that concussion mine. If you mess up one misstep, he is for sure going to secure that kill.
See if they can make that magic continue to happen. Michael Udall actually has a skirmish against Blaze mid lane that he was losing a moment ago, but there's going to be a toss in. The lurking arm keeping Garrosh locked in place. That's one of the things that Garrosh does not like, that lack of mobility. You know, we saw a pre-cleanse, so to speak, on his Indomitable when he saw the lurking arm going down the last time, able to walk it out, but that time just kind of forced to slowly walk away.
30 seconds out from the double altar phase. Both teams will be able to pick up their heroics. I don't think we're going to see ourselves a judgment this game, ladies and gentlemen. But if we did, maybe that all-in, you know, kind of hold up, though. Talking about all-ins, we got one up top. Zuna with that aggressive blink in. Prismat with the jet propulsion. Mike Udall's going to drop. No 10s achieved quite yet. Double groundbreaker. Flip over. Fury is going to set it back 1-1. Heroics are now picked up for Gale Force Esports. Zuna is going to get Warlord's challenge. Silence comes out too. The knockup, so much crowd control, but he still gets the blink out.
Oh, the tongue miss. He's going back in. Salvo, Zuna, you got to back out of there. You do not have the shield. You know, that was the thing, is like warp can be interrupted, but we already saw the taunt. The drag missed, and I think he felt way too comfortable at that moment. But if you wait a few seconds, I don't know. It didn't even look like there was a kill confirmed target in there, but Zuna being a bit aggressive.
Trying to get the plays there. Nice interrupt number 2 from Hanzo. Hosi able to keep the dream alive over this altar. Prismat, jet propulsion going to land. Cap is going to get the cleanse from Akaface over the wall. Ancestral going to be forced. Hosi trying to rip through with that level 7, getting a lot of armor shred there. Nice throwback into Blizzard. Altar channeled by Zuna, and shots still leading here for Simplicity.
Well, we mentioned Zuna might like to be aggressive on some heroes. He's trying to test the limits here of Phoenix in the early to mid part of this game. Fury going in.
Only way you can get away with that level of like aggression, I'm telling you, is with the reset on 4th. That's the only way you can get away with it. Otherwise, you have to be comfortable getting the auto attacks, getting that sustain. But if you do move into the reset at 4, then you can see that, hey, I'm going to go in, here's my salvo, scan, delete somebody, and you're like, oh, I'm back out. You know, I mean, you literally become a baby Genji.
I'm curious because the salvo has like a targeting range right out in front of you.
Yeah, it's about 90 degrees, or excuse me, 180 degrees, right, spanning in front of you.
We got ourselves a Deckard Cain coming in. He does the opposite. Instead of doing damage, he tells you a story.
Yeah, he puts you to sleep.
And listen.
Hits you with the old Lornado. I'm sorry, I just find that still such a fascinating spell name and concept from beginning to end. Sappers do make their way.
Oh!
I say that, and quickly they're going to be silenced.
They were literally, oh, we're doing it, oh, never mind.
It's almost as if like a blindfold just falls over their head. They're like, wait, what were we doing again? B-Kid, good dodge there onto that jet propulsion, but Dark Swarm just ended. I don't know if you'll make it out.
Targeting.
Pew, 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 pew. See ya, nerd. Zuna able to find the kill over the wall. Great use of the salvo there. 24 seconds out before Dahaka is going to be back, but lucky for him, that is timed perfectly with the altar, and he's got himself a brush stock.
Things still working out well here for Simplicity. Dahaka, like you said, will be back with that brush stalker if needed. Experience relatively even. Nobody's really gained a substantial amount of control over this battleground. 5 kills to 3, but not a lot has happened after them.
Junkrat is looking to slowly make his way down. Without his 13s, he's not nearly as big of a threat onto the side lanes. The mobility is not as big. They are going to get a catch out though onto Phoenix up here. Zuna has to use that kind of warp out. No attempt on the channel yet for either side. Look for a flank here somewhere from the members of Gale Force Esports. It's what their composition wants to make happen. That Burrow is in a bad spot, lurking arm when he's going to get out of this. 3-man jet propulsion coming in from Prismat, going to throw down double oil, flip over. Calf is going to be just fine, forcing the Ancestral. Channel here from Mike Udall will be picked up, and Gale Force walk away.
The bunker was used there as a defense mechanism, no 13.
Dragon's Arrow forced.
Big time. I mean, it's a little bit easier to get away with those concussion mines this time. You hit yourself with a concussion mine. That thing is on a very short cooldown. And so Michael Udall has the protection he needs.
What are we looking to make happen here? Well, maybe that. The flip, the taunt. Good night here after that brilliant CC chain from Gale Force Esports. Oh, look at that knockback actually onto Hosi. Natural agility will be able to get him out of here, though. And they're going to be just fine. Blaze doing his best to get, kind of work up in the top lane, realizing losing Calf down below. And for anybody, kind of wondering, when we often talk about with Garrosh getting picked up, then the warrior pool gets choked so very heavily. It's because so few can deal with those exact situations. Even the Tyrael in that one couldn't make it out thanks to the synergy shown on the side of Gale Force, but he really does force you to have a gap closer, escape, and individual survivability. Otherwise, you're just going to die.
Right now, the key target is going to be K1 Pro on that Stukov. His silence will silence Sappers. See if he does get that lurking arm down, because getting control, but Prismat getting tossed in. There's going to be the bunker going down. Holy Ground's going to buy a little bit of time. You can see Junkrat does put the Riptire out. Prismat's going to walk out, get hit with the Groundbreaker. Not able to get much further. Gale Force, they got that one kill weren't able to get much more out of it. Good defense here by Simplicity.
Also, really good job from Prismat, actually activating his level 1 to make sure he got the mobility after that groundbreaker so that he couldn't get flipped over. Because after that bunker, you know he was in a tough spot, no cooldowns to keep himself alive. Also, King Caffeine here at the 13 talents here did end up picking up the holy ground, something we can expect that playmaking here. Dahaka going to get the interrupt onto Zuna, forces it with an isolation of all things. Drag's going to get the follow-up, and Zuna, in the sanctification, he keeps himself alive.
Oh, the essence and the overlap of the Ancestral might be a bit too much, but K1 Pro's going to go in. Akaface making the big-time plays there. B-Kid, he's going to try and look to land another tongue. Bunker goes down for the moment. Simplicity considering the re-engage here, but you can see
the Holy Ground split for a moment there. A little bit too much to be able to deal with. The Welly thrown down, going to get the slow on the calf. Channel start by Akaface. And Gale Force will end up securing these 4 shots, claiming the first victory here in core health of this game. Flip over, no mana available for King Caffeine. That Holy Ground's not enough to keep him alive, but Fury ends up going down in the trade.
Took some keep shots there as the bell towers were raining down a little bit of damage, not able to get that instant blow-up kill. Try and find his way to safety as the return damage came in. So a 1-for-1 trade at the end of that. However, the channel did go over to Gale Force. They find themselves up 4 shots. They also find themselves up a full level as 16 now here for Gale Force.
What can we see Gale Force make happen with this time frame? It's a pretty small one, but it's still one that typically we need to see a team try and claim something. It looks like at least Sapper focus for now is going to be that focus. Maybe kind of whittle away at the top lane. Not big enough for Simplicity to be too concerned. That last trade really did not go well for Simplicity, even though Sanctification did gain quite a bit of value.
Oh, that play by Fury.
A lot of it was because K1 Pro threw that choke at kind of collapsed on between, I believe it was the Jaina, or the Dahaka and the Jaina, something of the like, and went for some kind of siege up and just out of position with that lurking arm. If K1 Pro, you know, kind of hones that in a little bit better here, I feel like Simplicity will have a far better next team fight. 16 is here, invade attempt. Holy Ground's going to get the split. Prismat's on an island, though.
So is Fury. He's trying to get out of there. You can see Zuna going in. There's the groundbreaker in return. Here comes the salvo, but the Ancestral has landed. That's big time, but B-Kid and Biggie trying to make plays. Fury, he's got the taunt here. He's trying to survive. He goes down, and nothing else is going to come of this as Akaface trying to run for his life.
Holy Ground, oh my gosh, is just going to be coming off cooldown attempt there for a moment. Great CC, Cap able to make it out with the smite, helping Prismat survive as well. Now get the turnaround damage onto B-Kid. Does he have the burrow? There's a Holy Ground, even if he makes it out. It's going to buy a bit of time. Not able to land a drag on the Prismat. Shots are now available. Mikey Doll starts the channel in the top left. Hosty says, oh, you can have that, is what he says.
We're sending Hosty back to some geometry class.
Yeah, my goodness. I've seen that 9th grade math needs some touch up here.
Oh,
wow. Big Kid, B-Kid, or excuse me, Big E. Wow, is a mile out here.
Wow, he's a big kid now, but Prismat, his health bar's going down. The bunker comes out in return. He walks away with a little bit of armor, and it's not enough to get the takedown as Akaface now finds himself way far in. And you can see Zuna making the big-time plays there. B-Kid now, he's the one that's on an island. The lurking arm's going to get the lockdown. He's going to use the tunneling claws for now, but I don't think, oh, that's going to help.
Yeah, that was huge, actually. Got him around the Holy Ground choke. Nice knockback onto King Caffeine. Channel attempt number, what feels like 30 here over this bottom altar, started by Simplicity. Going to round out the shots to a flat 20 between the two.
Back and forth we go, Dreadnought. We've got ourselves one heck of a game here. Simplicity starting to make their way forward. There's the Holy Ground. Fury is going to get the taunt, but he is going to find all members of Simplicity barreling down upon him. Zuna looking for the big play. There's going to be the salvo locking in onto Udall, and all of a sudden Simplicity took a small team fight win, so they are now looking to try and blow this game wide open.
Yeah, they very much are, and it's going to start with this bottom bell tower. Conversion number 1. No sappers available, but they can paint this map red here. See where they end up going with the rotation, if they focus anything towards that top sapper, or whether or not all the focus is going to be towards that middle. Or in fact, they could make a boss rotation they would like. I think the bell tower conversion is probably a bit of the safer route. Looks like bell tower conversion is the choice. That in mind, it's a bit slower than I would have liked, and a 3-man defense towards the bottom bell tower. Torn decision-making, I feel like, here from Simplicity.
It's hurting them, because if they lose this bottom bell tower, you can see it's taking damage from that Blizzard. Now it's not much left on that bot lane control. Dreadnought, we're talking about bottom 2 altars are going to be the next one. Had they maybe gotten that mid one down, would have given them ultimate control. But if they lose control of this bot lane, they take away a lot of control. Gale Force right back in it in terms of defending against one of these two, maybe even taking both of them, because if you're missing that bottom bell tower, you generally concede one, defend on the other.
I was going to say they have an opportunity to maybe make that rotation towards the top half and maybe forfeit over the conversion for the sacrifice of the top half of the map, but now that it's been picked up, hold up, Zuna's going to get flipped over. Sanctification is there to get the save, allowing him to warp out.
And the Sappers made it over.
King Caffeine there with the next level save. That's going to be a cooldown, though, that Gale Force Esports, they want to punish. So honestly, the fact that Riptire even went down to try and convert this bell tower is a huge setback now for them. We're 4 seconds out from this altar phase, Jay-How.
I don't know if they're going to get there. Dahaka's coming in from the flank. You can see him on the minimap. We'll pay attention to him in a minute. The rest of Gale Force, now that they have that down, they're on the assault. Zuna forced to warp out. I think we have K1 Pro on the bottom. There's the channel. Again, not getting that in time. You give up one. Now you have to contest for the other. But 20 also close here for Simplicity.
Akaface is going to start the channel. Simplicity, do they want to make the movement up? 13 Talontier gets the lockdown. There's the jet propulsion, but he survives. Ancestral Healing will connect. Get the groundbreaker knock up. Holy
Scanning.
is looking to get the choke. Mike Udall ends up going down there from the salvo out from Zuna. And they end up getting the first kill, and they are not done. Holy Ground attempt number 2. Going to go ahead and split B-Kid, force him to go the other direction. Uses the drag lurking arm, deterring the retreat. And 2 kills now for Simplicity.
Zuna going in for that big play. There's going to be a taunt on multiple people. The Blizzard going down. Hosty just now able to get out of there as he uses that natural agility, hops into the bunker. That could have turned things around big time. Instead, Simplicity now is going to have the opportunity to reclaim control again, this bottom lane. And we are going to look at another double altar phase, Dreadnought.
Double altar phase here on the bottom half of the map. If they convert this into their favor, that's 5 shots apiece. We're looking at almost lethal. Lethal if you do end up counting that boss. And with the 20 talents here, this kind of stuff is possible. Simplicity may, in fact, have this game, but Gale Force, they have looked so good for a vast majority of it. Up until really the last 2 minutes, Simplicity has been struggling. In game number 3, we'll see if Gale Force, with that 20 talents here, because they're Jaina plate. Post 20 with Water Elemental moving into the Water Mute, they get big plays, big picks when necessary, and that has been really the only thing separating them is that and King Caffeine getting the save onto Zuna over that bottom conversion.
Zuna coming in for the clear. Sappers on the bottom. 3 Sappers plus double altar. Not game, but it's awfully close. And then, as you said, the boss is definitely something to consider. It looks like they're actually going to move up. They were checking it. It's one way. You put the Holy Ground in the bush. You put some oil over there. They're going to concede potentially a spot lane control again. If I'm Simplicity, I'd much rather have bot lane control instead. Gale Force not able to get it. This is going to be the same scenario where one is going to be free. You have to try and find a way to contest the other. Dahaka, can he get there in time?
He gets there in time, ends up stopping one. 5 shots going to make it onto the core from that bottom altar. Now K1 Pro looking to join the rest of the ranks of Simplicity. Root landing on the King Caffeine, got to come back to join the squad. Hosey is isolated, Salvo goes down, there goes the 2-man taunt, but the sanctification from King Caffeine keeps the team alive. Akaface does land the Ancestral Healing, knockback goes on to Cap. Look at that Salvo value, throwing spray and pray all over Gale Force Esports, but they can't get a kill, Jay-How.
Michael Udall's trying so hard on the backside to get the kill onto Hosey, unable to do so. Now we've got the target on the front line, and they are on retreat. Is Gale Force taking so much damage as Simplicity going in. Prismat just barely misses. Now he's stuck in a bad spot as Simplicity. They lose Prismat. They could lose more as Biggie, though. However, on the side of Gale Force, he's going to go down. We are trading all over the place, Dred.
Gale Force is turning this around. I think the Tyrael passive come in, get the last kill. Now Fury, the last man to stand after that passive. 1 shot on the core of Gale Force Esports. And only a second away from Sappers or Boss. Does not matter. I think Simplicity has done. They already have.
Hanzo and Phoenix on that boss will shred this thing. Obviously, it's not the Hanzo with the scattering arrow build, but this could be the victory march. Remember, Stukov packing a punch in his swings there 25 seconds before Dahaka's here. It'd have to be the most insane play. Simplicity seemingly has done it as this boss is getting shredded. And in very unlikely fashion, Dreadnought, Simplicity comes out 3-0. to start us off here on Friday.
What a start here for Simplicity.